Go Pizza presents STP. The Steve Dangle Podcast with your hosts, Steve Dangle and Adam Wylde.
Well, I think someone just made the best first impression ever in the history of this show.
Dun, 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 dun.
She came in here and asked me to take a picture with a Stanley Cup cookie above my head.
Yes, no, that's not actually what happened.
No?
Do you know? Tell me you heard that.
In a perfect world, that would be next time. Maybe next time.
Ladies and gentlemen, Carly Agro! and just so you know, if you're not actually watching the show, Carly brought in Timbits and chocolate milk because we're all adults here.
Oh,
Cheers,
absolutely.
everybody.
Absolutely. Carly, I'm going to ask you to just pull the mic a little bit closer to you because
sorry.
these mics, as we've found with Steve, sometimes when you talk off of them, they sound like you're far away in a distant land.
Got it.
So anyway, hey, welcome to the show.
I'm super pumped to be here. So is my cousin that's at the University of Guelph. I just have to put this out there. This is the coolest I've ever been to him.
Oh.
So I just want to thank you all.
Wow.
Matt, if you're out there, I hope I'm scoring some PP points with you right now.
What's up, Matt? Now,
Wow.
okay, for your job and what you do, how are you not cool already?
You know what?
Oh, Sportsnet.
Yeah, you're on Sportsnet.
Yeah.
I think part of it is because I'm not Jackie Redmond. So that's a big factor from my cousin.
Right.
Yep. Just putting it out there,
Now,
Matt.
if you were Jackie Redmond, you'd be related, which would be hard for him. That would
We'll
be...
see. And I have a twin, which I guess isn't helping my case either. Yeah. So,
Okay, I need to figure something out.
uh-oh.
So, the first time you introduced yourself to me was at a Puck Talks event.
Yes.
And you're like, hey, oh yeah, it's so weird that we haven't crossed paths before. And I said something that I shouldn't have. I just went, oh, well, I used to write scripts for you at CBC. And you were like, oh, and like you seemed embarrassed. I'm like, why would I say that? That's so dumb. And it was probably once or twice, and it was a long time ago.
Oh.
And then I found out you have a twin. So it's possible that never happened.
But you only would have written for CBC Sports, right?
Yes.
Well, then, so really, I'm the one who looked like a jerk.
So you did, that was you.
That was like probably me just being a jerk and not knowing that it was you who wrote my really great script.
Well, I mean, you don't have time to worry about guys like him.
Yeah, I mean, you're Carly Agro.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
like, I
Look
just write the
out.
scripts.
Yeah.
It's like I just write the scripts.
He's not even a union employee. Like, he's, you know...
I was.
Were you
back
union?
then.
I think when you're at CBC, like you have to be, because I was too, and I'm not anymore. Yeah.
Wow.
A big union thing. No, and I don't know why I said that. You're just trying to be nice, and I'm just like, oh yeah, well guess what?
I used to know you.
I used to write for you.
Yeah.
I made you. Sorry.
Oh, now you say hi, Carly. Now you say hi, Carly Agro. Okay. So your sister works at CBC as well.
Yeah, so my sister is like the hardcore news junkie of the family. She's the investigative journalist, and she works for CBC's Marketplace. So did you hear about like the Subway story, for example?
Yes.
The chicken.
Where chicken wasn't chicken, allegedly?
That was all her.
Wow.
So she's the one who, like, she's got like the hidden cameras. She's like busting down the doors. Yeah, she's.
Holy smokes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Jeez, thought
I
she
know.
was
So
in
now I'm
sports.
even
Okay.
less cool. I'm really doing myself a lot of favors.
I don't
But
know,
yeah,
But you brought in donuts.
I did.
You
So
did-
there's that.
So, hey, whatever are you going to do, right?
You get to host Leaf postgame shows,
Yeah.
which makes you automatically cool in my books. And you got to host it last night when the Leafs got destroyed.
Yeah. But you know what? The good thing is hockey is back. And
Yes.
and to be completely honest, last year with what the Jays were doing,
Mm-hmm.
at this point in time last year, the sentiment at Sportsnet was, hockey already?
Yeah.
Really?
The Leafs were going to be bad, it looked like.
And now it is, with all due respect to the Toronto Blue Jays and Rogers Media that maybe we work for and has a lot to do with them,
Yep.
really pumped for hockey to get started. And just there's like a zest or an energy or something that is just palpable and completely different than last year. And I think so much of that obviously has to do with the Leafs. And as someone who used to work in Edmonton, I mean, all of this sort of hypothetical talk of an Oilers-Leafs final,
Very real.
it's really exciting. And the fact that we're even having that conversation and that it could be considered a thing, it's like, all right, the season can't get started soon enough.
That'd be amazing. And, you know, I mean, like, outside of just even Toronto, Edmonton, Ottawa made it to the Final Four last year. Calgary's got probably the strongest top 4, top 5 defensemen in the league.
We went from 0 Canadian playoff teams to 5 overnight, and the McDavid Matthews thing.
And there's no reason why Winnipeg shouldn't make it this year. If Steve Mason performs decently, that's all they really need.
We could have as many as 6.
Yeah.
Sorry, Vancouver.
Actually, I saw on Tim and Sid yesterday because we always have it in the studio.
But the Sedins will be there forever.
Yeah. Actually, this might be their last year.
Well,
no.
You rolled your eyes very hard.
I did. You know what? I think it's wonderful that they've, the commitment that they came out and they made. And I think it's that passion for a city and a community, I think, is unique. And it's something very much to be respected. I just tend to have so much sympathy for them because I still can't figure out what's going on there.
Welcome
at this point, it's like I guess we're all along for this roller coaster ride, and it's just going to be another year of, someone made a cute wiener dog sign for Bo Horvat. That's great. Let's talk about that. I don't know.
I hope they, at the end of the season, sign league minimum deals to come to the Leafs because I need my revenge. I need my revenge for Mets.
If they're gonna do it, I think they do it in Calgary because that's where Brian Burke is.
Ooh.
Can you imagine?
No, they would never. They would never.
But it
it's
would
like
be
the
so
Sundin
great
thing
if
when
they
he was
did.
rumored to be going to Montreal, and he just went, no. It's too ingrained in him, I think.
When I moved to Calgary, and I've told this a few times, so forgive me if you've heard it before, but it was the Vancouver-Boston final. And it was Calgary is so interesting because they weren't cheering for Boston. They were just cheering against Vancouver. Like, if there's a grudging respect between Edmonton and Calgary fans, both sets of fan bases hate the Canucks and the Canucks hate them back. And I think that was like moving out there. I would have thought it would have been like, well, yeah, the Canucks, they're from Vancouver. It's a nice city. Everything's no, we hate the Canucks. It's weird. And I think it's because they were so good for so long.
Sure.
And that's kind of what happens, right?
Yeah, when everybody wants to knock you, it's windy at the mountaintop, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Windy at the mountaintop.
Hopefully we know what that feels like one day.
Is that cliche number 1?
No, I like
keep
that.
track?
No, it's good.
Okay.
It's good.
All right.
A similar thing happened to the Bruins, though, because they were almost like a little bit of the underdog going on, and you got this goalie who doesn't really look like he knows what he's doing, but he's stopping everything. And then the next year they're in first place and they're bullying everyone still, and they're the reigning Cup champs. And a lot of people were like, I think I'm tired of the Bruins. And it happened very quickly.
It can happen really quickly, but I think too, and I spent a decent amount of time in Edmonton, it's also amazing how quickly things can change. So from the time that I was in Edmonton, it was, I remember one of the slogans was fail for nail. And it's amazing to think.
And they did.
Oh, and they did.
Sure did.
And it's incredible to think, I mean, John Shannon did a sit down with Peter Chiarelli last night in our show, and I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, man, this is the best the Oilers had been in how long? Taylor Hall is sitting in New Jersey. Jordan Eberle is a member of the New York Islanders, and look where they are and how far they've come. And so that's what I like so much about this season is that there's all these incredible storylines, and a lot of them are still new. Like, it's fresh. These aren't necessarily, teams who have been succeeding for so long. Like, there's this new wave and this new feel of excitement, and we don't kind of have all those storied things. There's these new ones that we're building, and I think these might be some of the legacies, like these things that we talk about, like the Bruins, for example, of that era. These are these things, we're in it now.
Yeah.
We might look back 3 or 4 years from now and be like, remember when that started? Remember when Austin Matthews made his 4-goal debut? And now, it's fun to be a part of it.
And the opposite. Like, the Bruins might be bad.
Yeah.
The Red Wings are bad. Like, legit bad. It's still strange to me that the Devils are bad because that was
that's the one for me too. That's it
was a dynasty.
It was a dynasty, and they still have above league average goaltending. I would argue Corey Schneider's among the top 10, if not top 5. He's an incredible goaltender.
They're bad.
And they're bad. And they've got Taylor Hall, and they're bad.
See, there I go again. She's like, uplifting thing, exciting, but the Bruins might stay.
But here's something negative. Yeah. So, Carly, just so everybody that doesn't know already, first, where are you from originally?
I grew up in Burlington, Ontario.
Okay, and then you moved out west like I did and so many others do.
Yeah, well, I actually got my start in the States because I went and played soccer in university.
Okay.
So I was.
So you're like talented and stuff.
Well, sort of, kind of. I like to say washed up now, but I was. I had a scholarship, a full scholarship down to Florida International University for soccer.
Just a full scholarship.
Yeah, really.
I was very lucky. I did work my tail off for it, not gonna lie. And
in Florida of all places, like you could have been in
Oh
Wisconsin.
no, I was and I was the first year not to have grade 13 in Ontario.
Oh.
So, but I was good. I'm like, I'm going. Like farthest south I can go. I'm out.
Yeah.
So, I went down to FIU. I played my first 2 years down there, and then I transferred to the University of Maryland, the Baltimore County campus, and we were America East there. So I graduated from university in 4 years, and then I stayed down there and worked for a year for an NBC affiliate, and that was really kind of how I got my sports sort of broadcasting career started. I was a political science major and was fully prepared to go to law school. I have a lot of lawyers in my family. My one aunt's a judge, and I thought I was going to follow in those footsteps. And then I did an internship at WBAL, which is the NBC affiliate in Baltimore. And the sports department there kind of knew that I was, I'd been a student athlete and I kind of could handle myself around whatever. And so whenever they were down a body or needed some help, I was always a keener and said yes to everything. And, Agro, can you go grab us some post-game sound from Camden Yards? Or,
Oh, and that's a terrible place to work.
Just a terrible place to be. The Ravens were there. So I got a chance to see and do some really incredible stuff.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I kind of had like my aha moment when I was down there, which is when I realized,
Do you remember what specific moment that was? Was there a specific game?
I do kind of have a legitimate story of how it came. So the Oakland A's were in town, and there was a pitcher making his major league debut, which, kind of happens fairly often, right? So Dallas Braden was making his major league debut for the Athletics, and our affiliate in Oakland had called and said, we really need some post-game sound from this kid because it's great. He's making his debut. So I got sent down there with a cameraman, and I had gone down maybe once or twice before, but I had never been the actual reporter with the microphone. I had always just shadowed somebody or tagged along. And so pressure was kind of on. So before I left, I'm looking up Dallas Braden and making all these notes and studying his picture, so at least I don't miss who the guy is. So the cool thing when you do post-game for baseball sound is like you go chill and watch the game. So you show up at like the 7th inning, you can have a hot dog or some popcorn, and like it's a sweet gig. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, life doesn't get any better. This is incredible. And the cameraman looks at me and he's like, all right, Agro, like we got to go down there soon. Like make sure you don't screw this up.
Nice. That's great. Yeah. Did he actually say that?
Oh, yeah. Like pressure was totally on.
So it wasn't like it's a joke. Don't screw this up.
No, like it was. He
was serious.
Yeah, he was like, we make sure like we get what we need.
Wow.
So we go down to we do the Orioles room first. And I remember just being in awe because this was back when Amber Theo-Harris worked for Masson. She's now with the NFL Network. And I've always really just, looked up to her. And she's just, I don't know, there's just something about her. She's aggressive, but she's assertive and not condescending, and I just was watching her do her thing. And then I kind of tried to like suck up to some of the Canadian players that were on the O's, like Eric Bedard, and he was just not having it. And I'm thinking, oh great, like this is going from bad to worse.
Oh no, did you go the whole hey, I'm from Canada too?
110%.
Oh, no.
Like that was my token intern rookie move.
Was his response similar to Mark Messier and the cookie over his head?
He just was like, and like,
oh wow.
You're Canadian? Yeah, lots of people
Yeah,
are
lots of
Canadian.
people are.
Congrats.
So I was luckily Jeremy Guthrie was playing for the O's at the time, who's a peach. He was great. So I got out of there relatively unscathed. I never brought up the fact that I was Canadian to anyone ever again. And then we have to go in the visitors room and find Dallas Braden. And so the cameraman is looking at me and he's like, okay, like what, do you see him? Do you see him? And I'm thinking, oh my God, he's not in here.
Oh.
nowhere to be found. Because by then, like, these rooms look like a pig pen. Everyone's had their pizza, the chews on the floor, the tapes all over the place. And I'm thinking,
naked dudes filling out passport information.
Towels are all over the place. I'm like, great, this is going to blow up in my face. So I don't know what or why I did it, but I went out in the tunnel and I told him to follow me. And so he follows me out into the tunnel, and all I see, like, out of the corner of my eye was Dallas Braden walking to the bus. And I was a goalkeeper. That was my position in soccer. And I just screamed. I was like, Dallas Braden. Thankfully, he stops in his tracks and turns around. And he's like, oh, you talking to me? And so I just say to the cameraman,
the other guy named Dallas.
And so we ran up to him in the tunnel, and I just said, hey, you know, like, do you mind if we ask you a few questions about your debut? I'd love to chat. He was wonderful, absolutely. We had this incredible interview, and I had done my research, and I knew the cool thing was the guy who caught for him that day actually had caught for him in the minors before, and even they had a bit of a relationship during college. So
they knew each other.
Yeah, there was this really good connection, and he was impressed that I had taken the time, I guess, to ask him about that and what that meant to him. And we banged out the interview. It was awesome. Cameraman looks at me after and he's like, way to go, kid. Like, you didn't screw it up. I'm thinking, phew.
Yeah, thanks.
And I remember you know, like most people in college or whatever, like, you're broke as a joke. I didn't have a car. I used to have to take the light rail and lovely Baltimore City public transportation to
I've heard only good things, especially from The Wire.
Oh, yeah. So I used to have to take the Baltimore City bus back to my, you know, dorm room. And I remember calling my mom that night and just saying, Mom, I think I know what I want to do. I just got such a rush doing this. And she's thinking, like, I don't get it. Like, are you going to start playing baseball now? Like, it's a little late. I think I want to be a sports reporter. And she said, great. If that's what you want to do and you enjoyed it that much, it must mean something. And then I remember my very first job on air was in Lloydminster. Lloyd, if you're out there, lots of Lloyd love for you.
Which is in 2 provinces.
The border city. Yeah.
That's right.
I remember when I was on the desk in Lloydminster, Dallas Braden pitched, I think it was the 19th perfect game in Major League history. And I remember being, you know, however many kilometers away from home I was, and just thinking to myself, you know, you're making peanuts, you're working really hard, and thinking, you know what, like, maybe this is the universe's way of telling me, hey, like, you're doing something right. You're on the right track. This kid just pitched a perfect game. And the cool thing is that they actually had, like, some sound and some footage of when he made his major league debut. And one of the little clips that I wound up finding was from our interview. And it was really special, and it was really cool. And it was like, you know what? Even if you're eating like a can of Kraft dinner or whatever it is you're eating for dinner tonight, like, keep going. Like, this is some sort of sign that you're on the right path, and, like, keep, you know, kind of following that passion or that dream, which at the time, that's really what it was for me, and kind of still is.
That's amazing. I have a question, though.
Uh-oh.
Baltimore, Florida. Been to Baltimore, been to Florida. Why Baltimore?
You know what? I loved
Presented without comment.
Loved my time in Miami. I mean, my college experience, my first 2 years.
So you were right in Miami.
Oh, I was
Party
legitimately in Miami.
Okay.
I'm talking like I didn't have class on Fridays. I'm not exaggerating. I was on South Beach on like Fridays after soccer practice thinking, like, wow, these Americans really have this figured out.
Oh, yeah.
I remember the first night I went out with one of my roommates, we were at this whoop-de-doo club that some of the basketball players had got us in, and Paris Hilton was there. I called my mom at 4 o'clock in the morning. She's thinking something's wrong, and I'm like, oh my God, Paris Hilton!
You drunk out your mom?
100%. She's like, what's the matter? I'm like, they were giving me Red Bull and vodka, and Paris Hilton was there. And like, this was back when she was dating the guy from Sum 41 or whatever.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
and
Derek
she's
Wigley.
like making out with them. And I'm thinking like, this is the greatest night of my life.
And then you took your talents to
Baltimore. I took my talents to Baltimore. So I wanted to transfer. I had a bit of a rough go. The American collegiate thing is so different than what we experience here in Canada, which I feel like we could have an entirely another show about. But I really wanted to transfer. My coach he wound up getting fired, and I think maybe even sanctioned by the NCAA. He wasn't exactly the greatest human on the planet.
Okay.
But he, Agro, if you catch another effing ball like that, I'll have your effing back on the next plane to Canada. You won't know what the F hit you.
That's cool to tell an 18-year-old.
Yeah.
That's wicked, yeah.
So, like, I learned
good.
real quick.
Yeah.
And so I really just felt like I needed a change. And so my club coach had made some phone calls, and this particular school and this particular team were really looking for some help with their goalkeeping. And what I liked about it was that it was so different than Miami. So I had 2 years in South Florida with like this Paris Hilton clubbing awesome experience. And then I was getting to go to sort of this northeastern American type of collegiate experience with the brick buildings and, the Chesapeake Bay and
some
that
history.
nautical, like Annapolis kind of vibe.
Professors wearing polar fleeces.
That's
Yeah.
right.
So I thought that was that really appealed to me, the chance I was going to get such a different experience. And then back when I was my political science ways, they actually had the Shriver Institute, which really appealed to me because I thought,
that makes sense.
Okay, I can work my way into Washington, D.C. and my law thing. And
there are a lot of Canadians in D.C. too.
Yeah,
a lot of Canadians down there. A lot more than you'd think.
I've wondered this about hockey players who go the university route, and I got to imagine it's similar for, you said soccer?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So how does it work? Like, how does they obviously go after you for your soccer skills, but when you get that scholarship, do they say, and what will you be taking? Like, do you basically just get the pick of the litter?
Yeah, so I think it really depends on what type of a program you are. And by this, I mean what type of a school you're going to. So FIU, for example, was a really big school. Like, they had over 35,000 students. And for example, as a freshman, my coach was, he wanted all of us to do well in school. So I only took 12 credits my freshman year, which is 4 classes. Which, I'm a nerd. I like school. It's not hard for me to try in school.
Gee, in your family with judges and your sister's an investigative reporter and lawyers. What a surprise.
So it was really, they try to be protective. So as a student athlete, you have to maintain a certain GPA. And most of the time, that's 2.0, according to the school. The NCAA only requires 1.8.
And is that 1.8 is not fail, right?
Well,
is 2.0 supposed to be the fail? Because 4 is the most you can get, right?
Yeah. So 4.0 is the most you can get. And you have to do really poorly to wind up with a 1.8.
Yeah, I think at Ryerson, if you're below a 2.8 in radio and television, they kick you out of the program.
Yeah.
So
wow.
It's really, you've got to be
Yeah.
struggling to wind up with a 1.8,
wanna know
especially
what
after
2.8
your
is
first
because-
semester.
Right.
So especially if you're only taking 4 classes, that's why I had Fridays off, because I was only, hey, you're a freshman. We want to make sure that you do okay in school. So we're only going to have you sign up for 4 classes. So, yes, you're required to complete your SATs. If you are an athlete, perhaps the school, will not be so won't look upon your SAT scores so critically. But yeah, there's no real sort of minimums that you're trying to hit, especially when you're a student athlete. I think schools can kind of, I don't want to say blur the lines, but they have a little bit more freedom to kind of, you didn't do so great on your SATs, but hey, your average was a lot better, so we'll focus more on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think student athletes should get paid? As a former one?
No.
No.
Wow.
Yes.
Interesting.
Why?
Because in my opinion, you are a student athlete. And in my experience, while I was not getting paid for my contributions to the school, I was receiving a significant amount of value in exchange for my services.
Okay.
So, for example, my tuition, my housing, my books, and I also received a cash grant every semester in US dollars.
Wow.
So you sort of got paid.
So-
a little bit.
So there is an exchange of goods and
There
services.
was an exchange of value for the services that I was providing. And with my experience, especially in South Florida, where football is huge, these most of the time, it's a privilege to be a student athlete. It's not a right. And I maintain that even for professional sports. That's something that is really important to me. It's not a right for you to be a Toronto Maple Leaf. It's not a right for you to sign with a team. It's a privilege. So when you are out in the community representing that, it's something bigger than yourself. And so my take on it has always been, for however long you are going to be there, you are receiving something that if you choose to make it something even more valuable and something even more tangible and helpful, then that's a unique opportunity. And so as a student athlete, I received my education, I received my food, I got my books. I didn't want or need for anything. And that was as a female soccer player. So when you go look at some of these programs, and I can tell you because we used to go, play against the U and the University of Miami, and I traveled to the University of Texas. I played at Longhorn Stadium.
That's cool.
That's crazy.
That's so cool.
When you see what some of these big schools and some of these big programs have, you don't want or need for much when you are a student athlete, especially if you are under a full scholarship, which most like your Reggie Bushes, for example. Like, I've watched that 30 for 30 I don't know how many times. And it breaks my heart to hear that his parents were struggling to pay their rent and wound up in that house in San Diego or wherever it was. But I can tell you, Reggie Bush, if he had a full scholarship, he wasn't looking for food while he was on campus. He had a great dorm. He would have had tutors available to him. And so I know that those players are generating funds and more money, but I think that when you are 18 to 22 years old, I think that some things are more important than others, and I think looking out for your future and your education are sometimes overlooked. And I think it's what's important to you. Is just making money important to you, or is preparing yourself for life after this sport also important to you? And maybe the value of a bachelor's degree isn't the same thing for some of these guys or girls who want to get a chunk of the change for the jerseys that they're selling. But in my opinion, for the time that you're there, you can be taken care of very well. And if you choose to maximize the opportunities that are presented to you, I don't think you should want or need for much else.
And it's the very American way of looking at it, is like you have to take advantage of the opportunities that you're given, however big or small they may be. And you know what? I think part of me definitely agrees with that. I just when you hear about the Reggie Bushes of the world, when you hear about some of those programs which are underfunded, or students not taken care of as well, if you're not going to pay the student athletes, I think there should be some sort of standardization as to what they get and how they're taken care of.
Totally agree with you, because even in our program, the way that it works is there's only so many full scholarships available, right? And then those get broken up. So as an international student, I'm more expensive to a school than an in-state student would be, or even an out-of-state student. So I cost the most to bring me in.
Yeah.
Does Canada have that? Like provinces?
Yes, it does. Not provincially, I don't think, but like each province subsidizes their education differently. Also, we don't value sports as much here as they do in the States, but Americans want you to go to your local university.
Absolutely. So there are certain, subsidies and differences in cost when you're an in-state. That's why a lot of football programs have a lot of in-state players, because they're also necessarily the cheapest. And when you're in a place like Florida, for example, when you have so much of the top talent coming out of South Florida and places like Liberty City anyways, you don't necessarily have to extend your recruiting budget maybe as far, or stretch it as far as some other schools
It's like
would.
the Montreal Canadiens being able to sign all the Quebec-born players.
It's like having an internal cap, too, right? Because there's only so much you can spend. Oh, and no, depending on the school, sometimes there is no limitation, especially when it comes to football.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's a tremendous compliment to your skill that they brought you all the way down there, not out of state, but out of country.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing.
So I definitely appreciated my time, and when I do hear, my heart does break for a lot of these athletes who genuinely feel like, you go back to the Michigan 5 guys, and and the black Nike socks and the sneakers and everything. And I understand why, when you come from the socioeconomic background that you come from, how difficult it would be to feel like you aren't getting what you are entitled to and what you deserve. Excuse me, but
it's the chocolate milk.
I think it's the chocolate milk. But at the same time, what's waiting for you on the other side, I mean, I wouldn't have had a chance to earn that type of money or access the NBA just because I'm a female soccer player. So it's just, for me, being a student athlete was a really special, unique experience. And I think that side of it kind of gets overlooked because you're an athlete. So,
right.
Yeah.
Okay. It's interesting to hear from somebody that's been there.
We've had like a grand total of like 2 athletes on this show, so
Yeah.
it was really for a sports show. We have very few actual athletes.
Well, because
so no, it was good to get that.
And the
perspective.
reason is because we're a podcast, so instantly people discredit you, right? They just are like, oh God, no, please.
Are we forgetting that every episode we have Adam Wylde, who played
House
hockey.
League and single A hockey.
Single A.
Yeah.
Look out.
Whoa.
Single A.
Yeah.
Matthews wore a single A on
Yeah.
his shirt last night, and that's basically the same.
That
You're
was a
absolutely-
big talking
So
point.
okay,
Big.
let's talk about that. Is that going to last? That's got to last,
Matthews
right?
with an A? Throughout the season, I don't think so.
But then what? So here's my question. If that doesn't happen, what do you do? Is it just a rotating cast of characters?
Because they're not going to put a captain in there, right?
I think
Yeah.
so.
Well, that was the expression, or that was the sentiment. No, we are not going to name a captain.
I'm trying to remember who the 4 are, because didn't they already
It was
name the 4 for the
Hunwick,
season?
Bozak.
Riley?
No, that was last year.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. This year they've already named the ace.
I thought they did. Maybe I'm wrong. Komarov, I assume, would get one.
Mm-hmm.
Riley, I think, would get one. Bozak would probably get one.
Kadri?
JVR?
Marlowe? Hainsey? Yeah, so that's interesting. They do
Yeah.
have a few vets who have been there a while who you could definitely give it to, but you're going to have Marlowe without a letter? But he's a guy who used to be
he's
a
a new
captain,
guy.
and he got stripped.
He's a new
Yeah.
And Hainsey too, eh?
guy. Yeah, they're new.
don't know.
I mean, it's pretty hard to step in and go, just because I'm old, I deserve a letter, right? And
Sure.
yes, they've been there, but you kind of have to still earn that with the room.
They might not want it either. I wonder how Marlowe's going to handle this. I don't know. And the reason I say that is I got to cover Sharks practice when they were in town last year, and I really wanted Thornton and Marlowe, and those guys like had their suits on and were walking out of the dressing room before a bunch of the players were off the ice.
Really?
Oh yeah, like they didn't talk to anybody.
Wow.
Unless they had like some sort of like time booked with different reporters. They weren't even there.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Oh, Carly's phone's ringing. Oh,
how
Car.
You know who it
unprofessional.
Come
is?
on, Carly.
It's my sister. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, but she doesn't have any scoops on me, so I'm okay.
Oh, okay.
I think, anyways.
Did you know that is not really chocolate milk?
Yeah.
That you're actually drinking. Oh my god.
So from the box score from last night, the assistant captains were Matt Martin, Austin Matthews, Morgan Riley, and scratched Leo Komarov.
Oh,
I can see Matt Martin being an assistant captain.
I don't think so.
I can see it.
You don't think they're going to stick with
I mean, I those 4. The thing is that I think if Austin Matthews is the eventual captain, which we all assume he is, although I still think Morgan Riley is a dark horse in that race.
Same.
I do think that you want to maybe put an A on his jersey this year, because now they're not rookies anymore. So now Lou and Babs allow them to be talked to in between intermissions, which is going to be a big step forward. And he's got to, if you're going to be the captain of the Leafs, you can't just slap it on them like they slapped it on Dion, right? Matt's took some time. Wendell Clark took some time. Doug Gilmour was here for a bit before they flipped it with Wendell. You got to have some time where you're the next tier. Rather than just one of the guys, you are a part of the leadership group, but it's not all on you.
Well, and I noticed last night, Jesse and I actually were talking about this before you came in, but last night Sean McKenzie did a post-game interview with Austin Matthews. And I noticed just his demeanor. His demeanor and his... he just sounded that much more relaxed, and he was that much more assertive. And it was funny because they asked him about the face-off violations, which I'm sure we'll get into.
Oh, we will.
But his reaction was very candid, and it was kind of refreshing because a lot of times, like I remember I was in Edmonton when Ryan Smith was playing his final time in Edmonton, and Smitty was a guy who no matter what took it on the chin. He would speak up, he would take the hard questions, and he would kind of do what you had to do kind of thing. And I think it was really, telling that on a night like last night when this face-off violation thing was such a hot button topic, that he was able to address it with the sort of kind of maturity and the candidness that it did. So I think if that's where they want him to be, which I agree with you, I think eventually, how do you not put a C in a guy like that? Then this would, like, last night was a perfect example of him taking a positive step in the right direction for what it takes. And not because he can I don't mean because he can talk to the media. I mean because he can handle it in stride. And it didn't sound like he was having a hard time or was uncomfortable answering what could have been a somewhat uncomfortable question.
I can't imagine the last time I heard him talk and he was anything like above this.
Yeah, and he kind of rolled his eyes. He was kind of joking about it. And he was like, oh yeah, I'm still not really sure what's going on there. And I don't think you would respond, it just was a sign that he wasn't afraid to maybe make a mistake or be quoted or kind of have somebody, use it against him, so to speak. So I kind of got a real, and it was only, one small example, but it was
enough
telling
of a
for me.
difference.
It made an impact on me for sure.
And you see this stuff every day, all the time.
Yeah. And it definitely, I didn't, there's compared even to last year, I just remember thinking, wow, Austin Matthews, hey, good for you.
That's cool. So I'd like to see him keep it. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if, I wonder if they take it off and then like 20 games in, it just magically appears, which I think might happen. I think might happen with Travis Dermott's career. I think they're going to 20 games in, he'll just appear. I don't know.
So?
I don't know if he'll start opening night. I feel like he was amazing.
He was one of the only guys who looked any good.
He's from Newmarket, right?
Dermott, I believe he is. And we actually spoke to his childhood coach. He actually played on like a whatever level it is when you're 7 years old. When he was 7 years old, he played with Connor McDavid.
With McDavid. Okay, that's right.
And
Yeah,
Sam
my
Bennett.
producer John was talking about that
That's
last
cool.
night. I couldn't remember if it was him or
Yeah, he is from Newmarket.
from the Newmarket. All right.
So let's. We should talk about the game.
Yeah.
We should talk about the game, and we
Should we mention sort of the most breaking latest news? That
Yes, let's start with
Please
that.
do.
Okay,
Please do.
so Colin Wylde officially has a broken left wrist, and they're giving him a 6 to 8 week timeline, which is a huge blow for the Erik Karlsson Ottawa Senators.
And that's 6 to 8 weeks until he's healthy enough to play. Probably go down.
Think
to the
about like that
Yeah.
Adam Banks test, right? Like with the stick.
Yeah.
Like, can you imagine him trying to do that with a broken wrist?
Well, and we've seen players. Claude Giroux immediately comes to mind, where he was healthy enough to play,
but not.
but like you need.
Was
a
that when he got
strong
in the
wrist,
fight
man.
with the copper? Was that injury or no?
Oh,
Oh, I forgot about that.
How
no,
did he hurt
didn't.
his wrist?
I want to say golfing.
Oh yeah, that's what it was.
He
Yeah.
was on the Fritz because of the Penguins Flyers series.
Okay.
And then he was golfing,
Teeing
and then
it
I
up,
think that
yeah.
same summer he happened to
Okay.
grab a police officer's buttocks. and it
Yeah,
went
that's what
poorly
it.
for him.
Okay.
Yeah, no, but that was my big argument a couple years ago. Tampa's in the Stanley Cup final.
Mm-hmm.
They're looking great. Tyler Johnson's looking great. He's having this huge breakout playoffs, and then all of a sudden he stops scoring. And it's revealed after the playoffs that, like, before the final, he banged up or broke his wrist somehow. And I'm like, okay, I don't care how good Tyler Johnson is. You don't have anyone in your reserves that is better than Tyler Johnson with a broken wrist.
Broken wrist.
At-
Yeah.
you know,
He can't shoot the
Say
puck.
he's 60% of Tyler Johnson. You don't have someone to match that or get 61%.
But who's going to be the 61? Who's that for
Who is
Colin
that?
White right now in Ottawa?
Right.
That's the
and
problem.
that's true.
Yeah.
And
He was the light at the end of the tunnel
Yeah.
for if Karlsson doesn't start the
Yeah.
season. Now they got Phaneuf, Ceci.
well, Chabot.
Oh yeah.
Chabot.
And he looked good. He looked good. They really think that he's going to stand out, I think.
Both those guys are D, eh?
No, White is a forward, I believe.
Oh,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
sorry,
Yeah.
I screwed that up.
Someone's-
My bad. I got White and Chabot.
Yeah,
mixed
no.
up.
But Chabot looks like he'll fit in. I mean, they put him with Phaneuf last night. They obviously, with Mathot gone, I think they have a bigger hole to fill. Although I don't know if it's as big as everybody's making it out to be.
Maybe not. Maybe not.
Because I think he's going to bring the mobility to that second pairing that maybe they didn't have.
I don't
in
love
the same
his
respect.
contract, Mathot, but I like him a little bit better than Johnny Oduya.
Yeah, and I don't know if they put. I think Johnny's. And by the way, I did a double take when I saw him in that jersey yesterday. I was like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, free
Kinda
agency
weird.
happened.
Yeah.
That was so weird.
Yeah.
He okay, so here's Ottawa's defense according to Cap Friendly. We got Phaneuf, Karlsson, who's out obviously, Cody Ceci, Mark Borowicki, Johnny Oduya, Chris Weidman, not to be confused with Dennis, and Frederick Clayson. Clayson? I was surprised he wasn't taken in the expansion draft. Boy, the only defenders they have signed beyond this season, I guess with the exception of Shabbat, are Phaneuf and Carlson. That's it. And then Carlson's up next year, by the way.
That's going to be a big
So
contract.
I wonder if the topic of his extension becomes a bigger thing this
When
year
is
as
he
well.
due to play again? It's going to be a while, isn't it?
Well, the issue was the wound kept opening. That was the issue. So remember you saw him at the golf tournament and he had the flip-flops on and like the Band-Aid over? I guess whenever he puts his skate on, that was the issue when he was skating, is that the wound kept opening. And so, so that was
that
the
can get
problem.
serious, right?
Yeah,
You
don't
can
want to
get
get a
staph
nasty...
infections.
Ugh.
Yeah.
I've seen that happen before. A football player in Florida got one. He had like a pimple on his shoulder, and then he kept wearing his shoulder pads, and then he got a nasty staph infection, and then we had to,
Isn't that like super serious?
super
I wanna
serious?
say it happened
We
to
had
Ed
to
Belfour.
disinfect like the entire our training facilities, the all the physiotherapy rooms and everything. Yeah, it
Wow.
is no joke if that happens. So make sure you're
Keep it
using
clean.
your antibacterial stuff there, Carlson.
It's an underrated topic
Yeah.
in pro hockey.
How
The
you could
equipment
get-
is disgusting.
So
Yeah.
horrible. Oh my God. If it smells half as bad as my husband's stuff, then yeah.
Yeah.
So that was the issue, was that it, I guess, that was part of the problem. And so, I mean, he hasn't even really been able to skate much. So how do you I don't know.
Well, Phil Kessel skates 10 times this summer, so
Yeah.
he's probably fine.
He's won 2 cups.
Yeah.
No, I think what will be interesting with Ottawa this year is, they made it work last year with half of Erik Karlsson's legs.
Yeah.
And a team that nobody expected to do anything with. It's the system that they play. It's not. I mean, obviously with Erik Karlsson on the ice, you're a 10 times better team. But I still think they'll be able to manage this. I want to not give them the credit, but I believe they deserve some credit for last year. I believe some of that. Do I think that they are a top 4 team in the NHL? No. But I definitely think the system that they play puts them in the playoffs. And I think that comes down to the coach. And I think there are some players there that maybe don't get the spotlight nationally that they would if they played somewhere else. Does that make sense?
That's
Well,
fair.
This is the time of year where you want a will they answer. But the answer,
How do you know?
The answer I always provide to the question of will they is can they, right? The Sens absolutely can. They got a goalie, got a
Yeah.
real good goalie, and they got some star power. So, like the Habs of the past few years, if you get Anderson to stop the puck, you got Hoffman, you got Stone, you got Carlson when he
Hoffman
comes
had the
back.
2 goals last night in like
Sick.
2 minutes and like 43 seconds or something like that.
That break
Well-
was unbelievable.
Yeah.
We can talk about how good Hoffman was, or we can talk about McElhaney.
Oh, yeah.
Well, Curtis.
And by the way,
4 goals on 12 shots in
Yeah.
the first.
Boy, yeah.
Carlson said on September 7th on Timmins said that he thinks he'll be back in sometime in October. Whether it's October 4th or it's October 24th, I'm not sure. We're not sure, but it's coming along well.
Okay.
That's good. Good to know. I mean, it's good for the center, and it's also good for the NHL. You need a guy
But
like him
he
in the league.
also said he's made the mistake before of coming back from an injury too soon. And if he's got this contract situation, which he does, I remember when he was on Tim and said, I really think he's going to take every precaution necessary and make sure. I mean, what's the difference? Like, take your time, because this is too serious for you to, especially considering the contract implications.
Yeah.
So I think he's going to be more cautious than anything.
They're not dumb. He's not dumb. They know.
Yeah.
They know
Yeah.
his value, and he's worth more to them playing 75 games this year, maybe than 82. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just missing
the
that-
more damage they can do in that time. Manage the games that he's not playing.
Yeah.
If you
Right.
go on a slump, you go on a slump.
He led. I did do an on camera for him a couple weeks ago. He literally led all. Was it all defensemen or all skaters at this point? No, he would have been led all defensemen in
Definitely.
the playoffs.
In
Definitely.
scoring?
In the playoffs.
Definitely defenseman. It might have
Yeah.
been all
Yeah,
players.
it might have been all players. I can't now.
He was
I
crazy.
can't remember, but it was nuts.
The only player I can think of in recent memory that warranted Conn Smythe votes, despite not even making the final.
Yeah.
yeah,
He was unbelievable.
I still can't get over to the Hail Mary shot.
Oh my
over
gosh,
the
yeah.
down to and I forget who it was
It
for.
doesn't even matter who scored.
I know
No, it doesn't.
We won't ever remember.
And it was a
It
good goal,
doesn't.
too.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
but a pass like that is just next level, right? It's amazing.
Yeah.
So he's there, or so he's out. I thought Shabbat was good. The Leafs, on the Leafs side, okay, so Curtis McElhinney, and I think our friend Justin, and I don't know if you know Justin Fisher, but he's a guy that used to blog for the Leafs Nation. We grew up with him. He's a really funny guy on Twitter, and he said, I have never been more concerned for the health of Frederik Andersen than after watching Curtis McElhinney. Is that one bad period? Is it just the rust coming off, or is that Curtis McElhinney and we just didn't get Curtis McElhinney last year?
Well, he's going to answer that question himself. Because starting Freddie, like in the preseason, what does he need? 2-3 games?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe
If
2
that.
complete ones.
Yeah.
And
Split a couple more.
Yeah.
where he starts,
Yeah.
like Anderson did yesterday. What I was a little bit worried about was, okay, he was brutal, but now Sparks is going to come in and be great. And he starts, and yeah, it's a harder role where you're coming in and you're cold. He looked bad too, but then once he stopped swimming around like a fish, he actually made a few decent stops. But I mean, you're just hemorrhaging blood all over the place. Like the Leafs were on the attack. It's not like the Sens were worried about their 6-1 lead going to crap.
Yeah.
So did Sparks even face the hardest shots? Now, what was strange, and this is what I'm about to look up, is a few names have just kind of surfaced, and this happens like every preseason, right? So Travis Dermott, that was an early one. Timothy Liljegren, everyone was freaking out about. Then at Puck Talks recently, Chris Johnson randomly brings up the idea of Jeremy Bracco getting a look. And I was like, what?
How?
What? How is
Where?
that possible? And then he gets sent down, so that's
Yeah.
obviously not happening. Then there were 2 that surprised me a little bit. Miro Aaltonen.
Yes.
He didn't have the best game last night. He looked okay.
He doesn't look out of place.
Moore did not have a good game, and he looked like he was really struggling with the face-off thing, which is bad news because that's his bread and butter.
Yeah.
The other guy, and I'm not going to go to bat for him, I'm just going to say straight up this is a dumb idea, Casimir Kaskisuo. So, exactly. You're giving me a look like, who the hell is that? A lot of Leaf fans are wondering
I
who the hell
hand
is
wrote
that?
the roster out last night too, and like I'm like,
Well, and he wasn't on the roster.
it's not ringing a bell.
So
ECHL.
I know. I think a lot
man.
of people's lack of confidence in Curtis McElhinney and Garrett Sparks are having them go, well, then maybe the backup will be this other guy. Sorry, you mean the guy who played 32 games in the ECHL last year and 7 in the American Hockey
Yeah, I
League?
don't think so.
Wow.
And he played, was it 5 or something? No, he played 10 in the playoffs.
Yeah,
No.
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 I think it'll be Garrett Sparks, honestly. If he comes out and he plays well, he's a big boy, he's young. Like
I think he has an opportunity now. I think if last night showed anything, it's that door is
It's open.
even
Wide open.
wider open than it was before. So it's kind of like Sparksy, if you come up, this is yours for the taking. So if you're waking up this morning and you're Garrett Sparks, like you're thinking,
Yep.
I just didn't even have to play that well to give myself a chance. Curtis McElhinney it was 4 goals on 12 shots.
Yes. And they
In,
were
like,
not
different ways.
And they weren't, I mean,
They were, it's okay. So let's be honest. The Leafs were terrible in the neutral zone. I don't think Rosen had a great game.
He looked good in the offensive zone, poor in his own end.
Yes, yeah, totally. I didn't really get a gauge on Liljegren. I don't know, but I'm not expecting too much from him right now.
Similar
He's
to Rosen, I would say.
18 years old.
Yeah.
They were terrible through the neutral zone. It was way too easy to gain entry for sure. But then you look at the way those goals went in. Like it was the Hoffman's. Was it his second goal?
The second one
the
was
rush.
The backhand.
yeah, the second one was the backhand.
I felt like
Okay.
That was pretty.
it was pretty. But when you look at the play, and maybe I'm missing the replay in my head. Should that have gone in?
Well,
Or is that just body him up properly, like line up your body properly, and that doesn't go in?
So the first goal was a really bad line change by the Leafs.
Yes.
And and a delayed penalty.
Yes.
Oh, yes, it was
right.
Yes, it
I
was.
forget his name.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I know who you're talking
Okay,
about.
it was a
And
delayed penalty.
He comes in and he's got a clear shot, and the Leafs made mistakes. But like that's what the goalie's for. Like the goalie's there for, right? Like sometimes your team just needs you to make a save. Like I know he's wide open and that's a clear shot. You got to stop that.
But it's
man.
also a clear shot that he could see,
He saw it wide.
So even
which
more.
is important, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I mean,
Yeah.
and again, we're talking to a goalie, so you tell us.
Well, yeah, soccer a little.
different.
I appreciate the difference between
sure.
the pipes.
He had to
but
guess which way he
everybody,
was going to shoot.
everybody
I mean,
save your
really,
tweets.
Well, and it's like what are some variables that you can take out? Well, he could see it, so you can't say he didn't see it, right? So.
Yeah.
again,
This is what I'm talking about.
I think the problem with it is it's kind of discouraging because you know that, when you see a game like that, I don't think you go in with any expectations. So it's even that much easier to make a good impression because you're not, oh yeah, there's rust, you got to shake it off, whatever. So when someone does step up, it's that much more of a pleasant surprise. So I think when someone comes out and lays an egg like that so quickly, it's that much more of a, now we're worried.
well, and it's that much more pressure on Freddie.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I don't know how Freddie handles pressure. I don't know him personally. He seems like a pretty chill guy.
He's Nordic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stoic. He's very,
Stoic.
but I find...
I'm thrilled you're all here for my birthday. Thank you. Your gift was lovely.
Can we cut the cake now? It's like boring Sean Monahan on Twitter.
Yes.
He's
A
fun.
little bit. Boring Sean Monahan.
I called Johnny Gaudreau and said, what are you eating? And he said toast. And I said, that was great.
That was great.
Okay, you know boring Sean Monahan? Okay, now imagine a region region of Europe. Where everyone...
Scandinavia. All of Scandinavia. I don't even know if it would be Freddie that would be affected. However, it does put more pressure on let's say, Freddie's out and it's a Thursday night game. As a defenseman, your guard's already up. And last year, it seemed like when Enroth went in, that was the problem, was that they would squeeze the stick, for lack of a better term, a little bit harder. Now, if McElhaney has a not strong preseason, and let's say Sparks has a not strong preseason, and they have to pick one of the two of them, that is not going to be a great position to be in, and that's 20 to 30 games of your year that you're really not sure about.
Yeah.
That's not good.
But there is light at the end of the tunnel.
It's the first preseason game?
It's first preseason game. A. B. If you're really in a bind, Mike Condon becomes available like he did last year. Or who's it going to be? Last year the best the Leafs could do was McElhaney, but options are going to present themselves throughout the year. So you'll probably have a couple months to figure that out.
Yeah. And give McElhaney credit. He came in and he earned the spot that he was given, right? They gave him a shot. He made some saves.
I don't know about 2 years, but yeah.
Can I ask a question though? Because is it at all frustrating or discouraging though that at this point when this is one of, if not the best teams that this Toronto organization has been able to put together in such a long time, and we're still talking about goaltending?
Yeah. Well, at least it's not starting.
Exactly.
Right?
There's the baby step. It used to be starting.
Yeah.
Now we're good. We're good.
We used to talk about top line centers. We don't talk about that
the
anymore.
backup. And I don't know. I was kind of thinking, last night, people were going, "Oh man, if the starting goaltender gets hurt, Leafs are in big trouble." I'm like, well. How many teams in the league are not screwed if they lose their starting goalie?
Yeah.
Washington?
Right.
I love Philip Grubauer. You want 82 games of Philip Grubauer? Montreal?
Oh boy.
We found out
Eddie
the answer.
Lack's backing
They
up
were
Mike
crap.
Smith.
Dude, and Mike Smith is the starter.
Yeah.
I don't know how confident I am.
So I
in
guess
that.
when you put it in perspective, I guess that's my only.
The Oilers. Who's the Oilers backup goalie?
Oh my god.
Go ahead, anybody.
I have no
I
idea.
have no idea.
Anybody.
Jesse is
His
looking
Jesse,
it
that's
up.
not fair. You have a keyboard.
His initials are LB.
LB?
Oh, Laurent Brossois, former Edmonton Oil King.
Whoa.
Wow.
That's because I covered.
All right. Very
That's
good.
because I covered the Oil Kings the time when I was in Edmonton too.
And you
I
s-
should have known that.
I want to say you said
actually.
that so beautifully too. The French.
Oh yeah,
Brossois.
Laurent Brossois.
It is. It's a very French name.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
She threw in the phlegm. Yeah.
Oh,
You
yeah.
got- yeah. Sorry, microphone. Let me just. No.
It's all good.
Yeah, Laurent Brossois. Wow.
And he played 8 games last year and was crap. But it's okay because Cam Talbot played his brain out,
Yeah.
right.
Yep.
and that continued throughout the playoffs. But what if he gets hurt? Well,
Yeah.
he didn't. The
Here's-
simple answer to that
He
is
didn't.
he didn't.
Here's a fun one that is actually plausible.
Actually, you know who started last year as the Edmonton Oilers backup? I forgot about this. Jonas Gustafsson.
Oh.
He did?
Yeah, exactly.
Huh.
Exactly.
Wow. Okay.
And he was trash. So they're like, guess what? Talbot.
Yeah.
For 70 games, Talbot.
I don't know how
Sorry, what were
somebody
you about to say?
stays in the league.
Brossois actually played kind of well, so
What do you
give
get?
him some credit.
What do you get?
928 save percentage in 8 games.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, maybe I was looking at Gus's numbers.
Oh.
Huh?
That's not bad.
No, that's not bad at all.
Put some respect
Nope.
on it.
All right.
Yeah.
I'll clap at that. I'll clap.
One plausible
My bad.
goaltender situation that could go bad outside of Montreal, and Ranger fans are going to hate me for this. Okay, so Henrik Lundqvist, 36, 37? What is he? No, maybe he's younger, 35?
30, 35.
Okay, so let's say he's older, right?
For a hockey player.
He will, no matter how injured he gets, he will always be the most handsome man in the game. Him and Aaron Ekblad. But
And there's two of him as well.
35. Okay, so he's 35 years old. Let's say he goes down and he's down for 20 games. Your backup is Andre Pavlik,
Boo. Boo.
who you're paying, I think,
See,
$275
perspective,
to.
It's a funny thing. Ugh.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So-
yeah.
1.3.
Oh, okay. Maybe that was a 2-year deal.
It's easy to get caught in this
It is.
little
Well, that's
bubble.
the thing, right? Like it is. That's. And I'm sure if any of the guys from Hockey Central were here, they'd be a first preseason game. But this is what makes it fun, right? Like this is why we do stuff like
Absolutely.
this. Like,
We're supposed to do this. This is our job.
I saw someone tweet recently like, "Oh, why are people tweeting about the rookie tournament?" And I'm like, "Well, shut up!" Because they should be excited about the rookie tournament.
Sure.
Hockey's about to start.
would
Don't
be-
you make money off this?
It would be worse if they weren't. Can you imagine if they
Yeah.
weren't? That would be a problem. Okay, so I want to move on quickly because we only have limited time here, and there's some things I want to
that's
hit
right, I
topic wise. Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we could talk to you forever. But okay, so we've got. It's first off the thing that you are talking about that we're doing right now. Steve calls the Mason Raymond syndrome, which is when Vancouver was the perfect team. All Canucks fans could talk about was Mason Raymond being not good, even though he got his back basically rearranged in the playoffs.
Of all the things I've ever totally nailed, like 5 years ago, I was like, "You'll be sorry. One day you're gonna be sorry." Here we are.
Right?
Here we
Rasmus Dahlin looks good though.
It sure does. Let's talk about the fact that we saw Joffrey Lupul post what he posted, and everybody knows the story, so I don't think I really need to introduce it. What is your thought, Carly? You're an athlete, you're a sportscaster, you've seen it. What was your initial reaction, and has that changed having heard the story and thought about it for 24 hours?
My initial reaction, I think, is still the same thing that I'm thinking now, which is I don't begrudge you the opportunity to play this game. You're an athlete. You have every right to fight for your spot. But then my point is put your money where your mouth is. Go get your second opinion. Mm-hmm. And I think, unfortunately, there's a lot that we don't know, right? When anything like this happens, we don't know what Joffrey's history and communications are with the Leafs organization and how this whole and how this whole situation came to be in the first place, where he feels so frustrated and so hostile that this is the way that he chooses to respond. And then, maybe it was a moment of weakness because obviously he's since deleted this comment in this post. But
I was wondering if he was drinking.
Not all of them.
well,
because we all post dumb stuff when we're drunk.
Everyone has made mistakes. We've all said things and done things before that we wish that we could take back, right?
For sure.
I'm able to hide my phone on my birthday.
But, it was great because Kipper and Elliot got into it last night, and
Good TV.
great TV.
that
But
was
then
funny.
go get your second opinion. This is what you have a CBA for. This is what you have a players association for. And I'm not going to sit here and begrudge you the opportunity to play the game that you insist that you're still passionate about. What I think also people have somewhat of a problem with is when you use a word like cheat and you're in line to take home $5+ million for essentially doing nothing, the sympathy card is one I'm not sure that you still have in your hand. And it's not really one that I really want to see on the table from you. So, I've never been in that situation before. He's had a tough career, right? And even considering with what he's been through, he still managed to have some productive...
He was great when he was playing in Toronto. Yeah, it
I still
is.
remember the All-Star game.
Yeah. He was brilliant.
Repping the Leaf, pulling on his jersey. That was in Ottawa, too, I think.
Yep.
And so I don't begrudge him the opportunity to get back out on the ice. My point is you can't be hypocritical. You can't accuse them of cheating and then not attempt to prove them wrong.
Don't pretend like you don't know what the deal is, Joffrey. You know what I mean? Like, is it shady? Sure. You know what ticked me off a little bit? Well, actually, two things. But it was fans getting high and mighty about the cheating comment. And I'm like, okay, there's a very tiny group of fans. I'm trying to think of the teams in the NHL that haven't blatantly cheated in the cap era. The Coyotes paid a ghost last year.
Yeah.
Pavel Datsyuk had a $7.5 million
But that's illegal.
cap hit and was
that's
paid
not a cheat.
$0.
Yeah.
Get out of my face.
Yeah,
the Red Wings. Zetterberg admitted that his obviously bullshit contract is obviously bullshit.
And it's
And the Jersey and the Devils got their picks back, even though they signed Kovalchuk to an illegal contract.
Oh, they did.
Remember?
Get
Yeah,
those?
they got some of those back when he retired.
Oh, yeah, was it the second round?
Yeah, they got something back.
It was like a fourth
Whatever.
or a
Yeah.
first.
Yeah, they got something back. Okay.
I mean, and that was our general manager now that did it
life
then.
is not fair, right?
Yeah.
You know, you're in a business. Life is not fair, but as something, rarely is there an actual simple solution,
Mm-hmm.
right? Where it's black and white. You are entitled to a second opinion. Are you going to go get one, or are you not going to go get one? And that.
Yeah.
We still don't have an answer. And with all due respect to Joffrey Loophole, but if you can make a comment about that on Instagram, why don't you then, to Kipper's point, well, show that you're working out on your Instagram.
Not snowboarding.
Oh, my
or
God,
partying in Italy.
I know.
Like
I know.
and you know what? I don't begrudge him partying in Italy
I
and
don't know
snowboarding.
about partying in Italy. That's what a
I think
guy
that's great.
recovering from an injury should do.
Live it
Just
up.
Chill on a
Yeah.
yacht in Ibiza.
Please live your life, but just don't expect everyone to side with you when you want to have your cake and eat it too. You want to make your $5 million for doing nothing, or do you want to make your $5 million and get back in the game? Because if you're serious about getting back on the ice, show us that you're serious and you want to get back on the ice.
And I'm sure, if he really did add value, the Leafs would want him there. I think they understand for some reason. Now, the other thing I thought, and it was brought up on Twitter, and forgive me, I forget who brought this up, but I thought it was really interesting. And they said this: being NHL ready to play is a lot different than being healthy.
Oh,
Do you know what I mean? So, players play through gruesome injuries,
Sure.
right? All the time. And you look at Clark MacArthur in Ottawa. So it's interesting that Toronto and Ottawa faced off, because truly, that's another situation where
geez,
it
I
seems
forgot
like,
about-
Clark, what did play last year was 4 games, and I think they're worried about 4
Well, he
regular
played
season.
19 regulars.
Oh, was it 19 regular?
I still can't believe
Yeah,
you
four-
played as
four
much
regular.
as you did after that.
Yeah.
But they are. I would imagine that they're going, listen, Clark, if you get another concussion, you're in. Like, we can't approve this because you have a huge issue. And we know Joffrey Lupul had some sort of degenerative back disorder for sure. He didn't have back problems.
He got back surgery, and then he
had the
got
blood infection.
poisoning.
Yeah.
Which was that had him out for a year.
And he had
Arm
wrist
got
problems.
broken by a
puck.
enough slap shot,
Yeah.
just freak incident.
And
like-
then recently it was the hernia surgery, right?
Right. So
That's right.
So maybe there is something that we don't know about, because it's not like the Leafs are forward with their injuries anyway.
Yeah.
That
And regarding MacArthur, I was freaking out about that too, by the way, but I don't think it was his concussions.
okay.
Oh, really?
I think I read that it was his back. I might be wrong.
Okay.
Oh.
Might be
See,
wrong.
it's funny how we can assume so quickly that that's what it is.
Right.
I
Yeah.
didn't-
But even so, even then,
Yeah.
like after the concussion,
Oh,
hit,
gosh. I still can't believe he came back and played as much as he did and how quickly
you know what I can't believe is the guy that decked him last year decked another guy in training camp a couple days ago
I
in the
missed
same
that.
organization.
No way.
He's
I
so
missed
lucky
that.
the Sens don't have an affiliate in Madagascar. Like
Why
I
do
don't
you
know how
have
he's still
him?
in the
I
organization.
Don't
didn't know
invite him to
that.
camp.
Yeah.
Like, you
it's
don't.
crazy.
That's irresponsible. If there's a guy that does that to my NHL regular, you're gone. Bye. See ya.
You ever see the Don Cherry documentary? When he gets invited to Leafs training camp?
Oh, it's the
Oh,
best.
I've only seen bits and pieces of this. I've never seen the full thing, so.
I've only seen the full first part, and I saw clips
Okay.
of the second part. He gets invited to Leafs training camp. They take his picture and everything, and I think he nails Red Kelly. And the quote was, I don't remember who said it. It was the coach or something. Get that $5 off. Get that $5 player off the ice before he ruins my $1 million player. And that was the end of Don Cherry's hopes of ever playing for the
playing.
Toronto Maple
Right.
Leafs. But it's true. Like,
Yeah.
Take him
you're in
away.
training camp.
Yeah. And you're a goon. He's a goon.
it-
He's not going to make the team. He's probably not even going to make
smart.
Binghamton.
That sounds
I don't know.
smart.
I think
Or are they
he played in
Binghamton
Bingo
anymore?
last
No, they're
year.
Hamilton now.
Getting back
Hamilton?
to Lupul, though.
I don't know.
I like what you said. I can appreciate that, like, he's a competitive guy who had a moment of weakness, right? Someone told him, like, oh, you failed your physical.
So he probably
He
reacted.
has pride, and he's like, bullshit, I failed my physical. Like, look at me, I'm Joffrey Lupul. You see me snowboarding? I'm amazing.
Look at my model photos.
Bro, I'm cut.
The guy I was... bro, I'm yeah, and someone sent me a picture of him, like, not being in playing shape. I'm like, A, I don't think he's flexing in this picture. B, he's on a boat in Ibiza.
I'll take whatever shape he's in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll trade any day.
The guy I was, another guy I was disappointed in, Nazem Kadri.
Yeah.
Did
Use
he
your head.
like the photo? Was that what happened?
He liked
No,
the
so-
photo and he liked a comment, but
Both
it wasn't.
comments.
He liked both
liked
comments?
both. I have a screenshot of one of them. I didn't get it of the bad one.
Are you sure?
Yes.
You're confirmed on that. Be sure.
I don't have physical proof, so I
Okay.
guess 99%. But
Okay.
I saw the thing.
All
I
right.
saw the thing.
'Cause that's-
Naz, use your head. Like we've
He's had his opportunity to learn from his mistakes too.
Oh my God.
So on the file of you should know better, I feel like he's right there. He should absolutely know better.
Yeah.
We've defended Kadri 1,000
Can't defend
times.
that.
No.
We've talked about it on the show. It's a miracle he's still a Toronto Maple Leaf.
And
he was drafted in 2009.
Wow.
How is he still on this team?
This is the one thing I dislike the most about what I do and how this whole industry works, that it's 2017 and we have to talk about these things that you like to comment, which makes you
It's public support.
But it's unfortunately, it's so real. You can't get rid of it now. We're already down this rabbit hole, right? Yep. It's here, it's real, and there are consequences when you do these things.
It is support of a comment that said the
public.
a public comment.
He knew what he was doing.
The team you play for and make $4.5 million to play for cheats.
And has sung your praises.
Yeah, and this goes back to my point about it's a privilege. It's not a right. And I know it kind of sounds like cheesy and sort of, altruistic or whatever, but these are the things that, you are bigger than you. When you pull that sweater on and you hear people say it, you are representing something that is bigger than yourself, whether you like it or not. And you've lost your chances. You've run out of your excuses for your behavior. And I'm young and I need to learn and I'm sorry. Enough already. Be a professional. If you want people to treat you with respect and you want to be taken seriously, act like it. And that is not okay.
If he was ever going to wear an A, I think he lost his shot this year.
Yeah.
Oh, Kadri?
Yeah.
Well,
I think that's
last year. It's saying Lupul looks like he's in great playing shape. And okay, now it's like if Lupul does come back and the Leafs get his full cap hit, and they need to shed some cap, you want to play for Vegas? Want to play for the Devils? We can make that happen, man.
I'm sure there was an internal conversation after that. Don't you think?
Though. I mean, I love him, but I don't know. I don't know enough about how much organizations want things like that to reach that level, because then maybe when you do escalate it, then you almost give it too much. You turn it into a thing, whereas if you leave it alone, maybe it'll just kind of figure itself out. I don't know how much they want to get. Do you really want to be sitting in front of Mike Babcock and having him be like, so did you like this?
I don't have
is this Agro?
No.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
but they have a social media person
for the players.
I think 4 PR people, and
wow.
I'm sure they were all over that. And one of the PR guys is specifically dedicated partially to social media. So you have an actual social media coordinator, you have a PR guy who's kind of in charge of looking after that stuff, and then you got 3 other guys.
And this is where I get frustrated when people say, they use that expression, the media makes such a big deal of things. Well, these are things, though, unfortunately, that become issues.
Yeah, and you can't, I'm sorry, but anybody that tries to diminish. Again, what you do on social media has to be considered a public form, as if you're yelling it out loud. When you like a comment like that, it is throwing your public support behind somebody. And especially if you want to have an Instagram account with 1 million followers and you want to make money off that and you want to do that stuff like he does, great. But understand that there's responsibility with that, and I was really, really disappointed to see that.
And it's funny because I just signed this contract with Rogers, for example. My contracts are 25 pages long. I have social media conduct policy that I agree to and am held accountable to.
Sure.
So I just think you can't have one without the other anymore. Yeah. Do I think it's ridiculous that we have to sit around a table and talk about something that happened on Instagram? But the reality is, to your point, we do. We're at that level.
It means something.
Yeah.
So so the big deal was Joffrey posts this, then puts 2 comments. One is I'm ready, I'm just waiting for the call. The other is they cheat and everyone lets them. So again, 99% sure Kadri liked that photo. So the photo is still up. Kadri has still liked it, and then I click on the one comment that Lupul did leave up, which is the I'm ready, just awaiting the call. 353 likes, among them Nazem Kadri, still.
And that's fine. If he says, okay.
I'm waiting for the call.
I guess, okay.
It doesn't take a brain surgeon, man.
Yeah, I mean, and also interesting, Jared Cowan liked the Instagram post as well.
And I think I saw Frank Corrado did too.
Yeah.
I think I saw Frank Corrado.
Yeah, but when Frank Corrado was called on, he didn't play well. So I'm sorry. I think they made the right choice.
Should. How come?
Because he's basically Joffrey Lupul.
But there is a deadline. There is a deadline, though, right? Like, we're going to have an endpoint in this. Because doesn't he have, I'm not sure, but I
72
thought
hours?
Kipper said by Thursday at some point in time.
Thursday at 5.
Okay, so he's got to, which is to present the second opinion, just so I'm clear.
We shall see. I don't know.
Or to file to
It
get
has
a
to
second
file.
opinion.
File to
Has
get
to
the
be
second
filed.
opinion.
He's got until 5 on Thursday to do something.
I just think when all of this is said and done, I do think actions will speak louder than words or likes or any of this.
Now, if you're him, are you thinking, shit, now I got to go through with this? Because I better. No.
I'm not sure. I don't know what his we don't know all the details surrounding his, sort of time on this Robida Island, I guess they would call it, whatever. I don't know what the details of him, surrounding this whole situation are. I think there's a lot more going on than is necessarily common knowledge. So I don't know, but I think it just I try to keep things simple. Do you want to try to play again or not? Do you want to be back on the ice? If you do, then please go get the second opinion. And if not, then maybe you just need to go
sail into the sunset. And you know what? He could have done.
Nothing wrong with that.
Could have done what Stefan Robida did. Stefan Robida said, "Okay, fine. I want to be an associate coach. I want to be a part of the organization." And look at what he's done. Now he's employed by the Leafs, even though his contract's expired.
Yeah.
Bit of an older guy, wife, kids, different point in his life. Like,
made less money.
The difference that 5 years or 6 years.
But see, that's also
true.
how be careful. How the things that you do when you're young directly impact what you are able to do. It's just like any industry, right? I don't care if you're in hockey or if you're in broadcasting. If I'm horrible to someone 3 years ago, that might come to bite me 5 years down the line.
He might be your boss one day,
And to your point, though, I think Robida's on-ice services were not necessarily welcome anymore, but his off-ice services were.
Yes.
Okay, fair.
I don't think the same opportunity is available to Joffrey Lupul. I don't think it's wanted.
And that, again, comes down to if that is the case, that's his character versus Stefan Robida's character.
Yeah.
Right?
But now we're attacking Joffrey Lupul, which with
We're not
legitimate
attacking
reasons-
him.
No. We're criticizing him a little bit. But then there's still is what the Leafs doing, is that shady?
Sure. Or are there? Yeah.
I'm not going to deny it, for sure.
When the New England Patriots were videotaping other teams' practices, was that shady?
Yes.
Totally. How many championships do they have?
Yeah, but it's bullshit.
When Tom Brady deflated a football and had people deflate footballs, I don't care what anyone says. If anybody messed with a puck, a basketball, anything else, and a star player was implicated, imagine that was LeBron.
Yeah, you can't
imagine
take
that's
away
LeBron.
a Super Bowl. You can't take away an NBA championship. You can take John Jones's title away.
But as
Yes,
long
you
as
can.
people are going to be playing sports, there's going to be ways to try to circumvent the
Gamesmanship.
rules, right?
Yeah.
So, we just had the Apple Watch issue, right? Like with the Red Sox.
Oh my
in
God, that's the
baseball.
best
So,
story.
As long
I can't
as
believe
these.
that's the first we've heard of a story like that.
Oh,
Sorry.
yeah.
So, but as long as we're going to be, these games are going to be played. People are going to try to figure out ways to circumvent and get around things. And
The Apple Watch things. What gets me about the Apple Watch thing is, how do you know? Like, how do you get caught? How blatant does it have to be?
That'd
And
be
like,
dumb.
what do they intercept a text? Like, what do they do?
don't-
How did they actually find that
don't
out? No one seemed to be able to answer that.
The man in white intercepted.
yeah.
Attack. Remember that
Yeah.
whole
Oh
thing?
my God.
gosh. And it's yeah.
Anyway, so something I wanted to bring up, and it was kind of under the table, and this is hockey related as well, is the trade that happened this weekend. And it's not the trade itself, but it is the organization. One organization going one way, one organization going the other. And there are several teams in every league where you go, oh, I don't know what the hell they're doing. Florida is becoming that team. Arizona, I'm like, I know what you're doing. And boy, do they look a lot scarier than they have ever looked in years.
Playoff team.
Potential playoff team for sure.
Ooh.
And look at their.
Okay.
I mean, they've got good goaltending, great top four. I don't know if they have a very, very solid top four with OEL and Holmerson
OEL, Goligoski,
and Demers,
and now Demers.
right?
Not the best. Very good.
It's very, very, very good. And so with Florida, I mean, Demers is what they got for Demers, and they had to retain salary on him. I think is interesting.
How much did they?
So they
think it was-
retained 12.5%. So
Right.
instead of retaining like $1 million some odd dollars, the cap savings per year are basically like $150,000. It's very little.
Oh, okay.
But Demers is under contract for one more year than Jamie McGinn. So basically they save like actual dollars. I think it's like $5 million, something like that.
Oh.
Which the Panthers need, but it's an unjustifiable trade. You traded a legitimate top 4D for a guy who scored 17 points last year, for a guy who was outscored in the same amount of games by Matt Hunwick.
So with a guy like Demers, like we know the Leafs took a look at him. You know, if that's all the cost is, and by the way, and as I tweeted and people were so pissed off about, I said if there was Larson for Hall once, that is no longer the case, right? Defensively sound, probably Larson is a better defensive defenseman. Demers is probably a better an offensive
Seth
defenseman.
Jones for Ryan Johansson makes
but
more
still,
sense than
but
that
still
trade.
sound. How can you not bring more back for that?
If you're the Panthers?
Yeah.
I got no clue, man.
Yeah, it's kind of a funny time, in Florida. And it was weird even towards the end of the season last year. I don't know.
The Wrath of Talon. I can't wait to read this book.
There's a book.
Dude, they tried to trade. My favorite part of the trade.
If there isn't, there totally should be.
Yeah, there needs to be. Is there a book?
We'll ask Doug Seifert.
You should ghost write for him, Steve. There you go.
I will absolutely do it. There's book 2. The trade that was nixed by Jason Demers is my favorite.
Oh, it's a good one.
It was supposed to be Demers to Vancouver for Eric Goodbranson, which is just Dale Talon saying F you to everybody.
Wow.
You're literally undoing. Like, not just we're going in a different direction. You're actually trying to do what the Blackhawks actually kind of did this past summer. You're completely just getting back to what you were when I was in charge. You're not just reassembling a team. You're reassembling my damn team. I'm going to undo all the moves. So now the Panthers are behind a year.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't understand how this is better from the Computer Boys saga. And the whole, their owner losing his mind and going to work for Trump and then punching someone at a horse auction and then not working for Trump anymore.
Oh, but he
And
couldn't
then-
divest himself of all his assets.
No,
That's why he couldn't work for
and
Trump.
Certainly not. And this guy's the GM, and now he's the coach, and this guy's GM. Okay, that was confusing and everything, but the reason the Panthers were bad last year was because everybody got hurt.
They did have some seriously bad injury luck last year.
Yeah, and they rode the
Yeah.
PDO train a little bit, and then they got off at their stop.
Well, who was out? Wasn't it
It's like
Barkov?
everybody. Barkov for a long time.
Was Ekblad out?
I thought he was
battled
out for like
injuries
8
all
weeks.
seasons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huberdeau was out.
Huberdeau was out like
Majority of
6
the year.
months or
I don't
something
think
like that.
Ekblad had a real consistent stretch either. Like, he really
He
struggled.
got concussed at the World
yeah.
Cup.
Yeah. And he
then
was
he got
playing good.
concussed again.
He was playing really
Yeah.
well at the World Cup when he was concussed.
I thought so.
Or when he did get concussed.
I
So-
really thought you guys were going to want to do face-off violations
Oh,
today.
shit. You know what? Let's do that,
yeah,
too.
sorry.
Thank you. Let's get that in.
Do we
got
have
like
time?
13
Yeah, okay.
minutes.
So,
Yeah.
Because it's still
they're
like,
not
just
gonna.
a weird...
They're not gonna keep doing that, are
It's
they?
such bullshit. Yeah.
You know what's funny? Everyone who was asked, and I was reading Spector's article this morning too, everyone who's been asked about this makes the comment like, I understand, like they're trying to call the rule as it's written, but I can't imagine them doing this in a game 7. I can't imagine them making this call in the
So
playoffs.
then why make it?
Well, didn't
you
the
can't make if you
Leafs-
can't enforce it at that point, at a very important point. Why have it?
How did the Leafs get their power play against the Caps in Game 3? Did like the
Oh,
I
Steve.
do not remember. Yeah, let
Come
me
on.
just...
I'll
Wasn't
just
it a
I
put
thought
it
you
on
were
the
going to say
Rolodex.
last night. I'm like,
sorry. But
Do you know the answer to your question?
I remember the Leafs were the benefactor of a few of those faceoff violations last year, and I remember being like,
okay.
I didn't even know that was a rule.
No,
But they weren't. It wasn't the line. It was like the center playing the puck with his
okay.
hand.
Okay. Well,
Or something like that.
see, that to me is
That's legit.
Yeah, this is real. What I'm worried about with this is actually how you're going to properly call it. Because
they didn't yesterday.
because they didn't yesterday.
Oh,
And
I
the
didn't know that.
issue is with the linesmen. So I was watching this again this morning because I'm really trying to wrap my head around it. But the best explanation too is that if you're the linesman, you're always your tendency is to look at the guy who's moving most recently, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's always going to be the same player every single face-off.
So
right?
I don't remember if it was Kyprios or Friedman.
Yeah, it was Kipper. Or no,
Yeah.
it was Fried who did it. Sorry.
So Connor Brown, Altonen gets kicked out of the faceoff. Connor Brown comes
in. This is the one against Zach Smith, right?
That's who it was. Yeah, Zach
Yeah.
Smith is over the line.
He's over the line. You can see his left skate is for sure over the line.
But
But what happens is Brown comes in second, right?
Right.
So he's in motion. So if you're the linesman and you're looking
at
a
Brown.
human, like what is your natural tendency? If my chalk and milk is sitting still, but this is moving, well, what am I looking at?
Well, I'm running terrified from the Timbits box if it's moving on its own. First off, but second, you're right. Absolutely,
Right?
you're looking at the
So what are
movement.
you looking at? You're looking at the movement, and so that was the one that Babs kind of got ticked off about because he's like, wait a minute, when the whistle blew, I think he thought they were going to be the benefactors.
Yep.
And then they weren't.
Beneficiaries.
Yeah.
I forget. I think I used the word wrong.
But yeah, on the replay, like you clearly see, because what they don't want, they really want you wide of the hash marks. So, which, I guess shouldn't be that hard to see or do, but it's not so much that to me. It's this issue of how you're properly going to call it.
And this is what drives me nuts. So I understand why they have the rule. They want to, because guys cheat in
Sure.
the face-off dot. Now what's going to happen is they're going to cheat differently,
Right.
like how Zach Smith did yesterday, but the consequences are a power play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's-
And that's
It's just- I don't know. The calling more slashing, totally I get it.
a little more player safety oriented.
Totally get
yeah.
it. Well, and it's slashing. Like, oh, you called that one, but not this one.
yeah.
So
Just call it.
I get
Yeah.
it. Just call it. This is just inflating power plays to up scoring in
To
the
up
NHL.
scoring,
Like,
because
it's so
there's the
transparent.
data that backs it up too. Like power plays are way down this year, and we've seen this in other years too. When that's happened, that then
They've changed the rules
This is
and-
the gut reaction. Okay, well now what rule can we look to
And put a penalty
that will
on the coach's
actually,
challenge.
Yeah, that will actually wind up resulting.
Oh my God, I forgot about that.
Yeah,
That's going to be another one, though,
That's
I
gonna
think.
be another one.
Like a legitimate close play. A legitimate close play is going to result in a penalty one of these days, and it's going to sway a game.
Oh, yeah.
And that's when refereeing takes over the outcome of the game rather than the players. And that's where I think the NHL has to be careful. There's a lot of things in hockey that are very gray, right? There's a lot of, it's very, very hard to call things that are happening really quickly. But at a certain point, you have to realize that there's going to be some chaos moments, and you can't regulate them all. And I think face-offs are one of them. I also think coach, what the fuck is the point of a coach's challenge? What the fuck is the point? I just don't understand. And like, I can't think about last year how many coaches challenged the Leafs lost that looked legitimate.
Yeah.
And I wonder about how they call things. I mean, wasn't there like a weird offside or some sort of rule that we'd never heard
That was
of, and
back
of course
in Game
happened to the
4
Leafs?
of-
Yeah. Yeah. Steve
You
would
know,
know.
the only thing I will say, though, that I kind of appreciated at least last night, everyone who spoke after the game, and I don't know, I guess I should say, I don't know if maybe this is, Babcock or players also like, kind of throwing the NHL a bone or whatever. But everybody said, the linesman, the linesman came into the room before the game. They told everybody how they were going to call it and what they were going to do. So there was transparency before all of these games that said, look, we're going to be coming down hard on the slashing. We're going to be coming down on the violations. Now, telling them that and then being able to react to it, I understand how incredibly difficult that
There'll be
would
an adjustment.
There'll be an adjustment. But so on the one hand, at least this wasn't, it's not like this caught anybody off guard or it was blindsided.
It wasn't instituted in Game 42.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
I still remember, I don't know why I remember this, but it was like Aki Berg in a preseason game after the 05-06 lockout. And he gets called for a penalty, and the ref points at him, does the whole "you're gone," and he just gave him a look like, all right, yeah, all right, I guess
okay.
that's a new rule. Like, he didn't know. Moore kind of had a bit of a similar thing last night when he got called for the face-off violation, because the ref just very calmly goes, "You're gone," does a little point, and Moore just goes, like, if you even read his lips, he goes, "Okay." Just gets off. Nothing, no swearing, no nothing. Just like a vet.
It's also the preseason. Nothing against
Yeah, and there's going to be some
Preseason
adjustment.
game, it literally doesn't matter. Like, if the Leafs were going to have a stinker, if McElhinney was going to have a stinker,
That's the time.
Sparks was going to have a stinker,
Yeah.
everyone was going to get called for slashing, everyone's going to get called for the face-off violation. Please be that game.
Yeah.
And no.
I just wonder how much though this is going to carry into the actual regular season, or if it's gonna taper off. Like if for the first few weeks, there might be, hey guys, there's gonna be like a quarter, like we gotta hit 2 or 3 every game, and then if it will taper off, or if it's really gonna stick.
Right. And whenever those penalties taper off, like whenever that's happened, I found, or like if the refs have stopped calling it or something like that, then they bring it back with a force again the next year. So I kind of hope that they just stick to whatever plan it is, because they'll always bring it back and go, we didn't call it well enough. We need to call it more. And
and forget the players are getting used to the new rules. The refs are.
yeah.
Like, it's good. This
Hard to call.
season is, I think it's going to be very sloppy. Should be fun.
Hey, if
Hope you enjoy 7-6 hockey games.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah.
80s are back.
Yeah.
200-point Connor McDavid. Well, okay, Carly, we are like basically running out of time here.
That's okay.
But I hope you come back, because this has been so much
Yeah?
fun.
Good.
Yeah,
All right.
this
I
is
got
wicked
excited
fun.
this show. I started yelling.
Next time, have Cameron and I come on together and we'll go toe to toe.
Oh, I think that'd be great. Definitely.
Just kidding.
Cameron v.
We
Agro.
only arm wrestled once.
Who won?
Who won?
The pro athlete.
Scholarship.
Athlete won.
We're gonna say that to Cameron and be like, yeah, that's cool, but she's an athlete, so.
Yeah, they're College of Sports Media. You lost to scholarship over here. Yeah, I believe it. I believe it.
I've never seen her upset about anything in her life, and she storms out of here.
She brings in a tennis racket that we didn't see anywhere and
yeah.
smashes it.
Imagine.
Yeah, that'd be good. Anyway, thank you for making time for us.
Hey, thank you. And maybe next time I'll tell you my Phil Kessel hat trick Hockey Night in Canada towel story.
All right.
Did you just tease? Well, now we got to.
Oh, now we're definitely going to do it.
That's clever.
Now we're definitely going to do it. And actually, it'll be when you do come back, it'll be interesting to check in on all these things that we talked about and see if they've actually stuck with it.
Totally.
Right. Next time we'll bring the Timbits or the pizza,
Hey.
Panago Pizza. And thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks
we will
for having
be
me.
back Thursday when newly of CBS Sports, the one and only Pete Blackburn is joining us, which we're very excited about. I guess somebody was tweeting him yesterday and saying, "Hey, Steve, or how's unemployment treating you?" And he's like, "Should I tell him?"
Yeah. I got a job 2 weeks ago.
Anyway, we'll talk then. Thank you so much, Colin.
Hey, thanks, guys.
Follow the guys on Twitter at Steve_Dangle, at Adam WYLDE, and at Jesse Blake.
The Steve Dangle Podcast. Brought to you by Panago Pizza. Order at panago.com and stuff your face with deliciousness.